real quick, if everybody wants to change your name with your pronouns, just so we can all see that. You don't have to if you don't want to.
I tell people, that's your business.
So let's see here. It's 9:01. I think we should probably start going. We're recording this session. The chat has been disabled. So if you would like to ask questions, go ahead and verbally ask them. Just unmute yourself. If somebody needs to share their screen for any reason, let me know and I'll enable that. I got this thing under lockdown because we got hacked so many times at the school where I work at. I'm always worried about that, but I can manipulate it. So we'll just go ahead and start going. I'm Max Macias. Hi, I'm a librarian at Portland Community College part-time. I work in IT. That's my formal job. I'm an IT trainer, and I have a heavy interest in information and culture and technology. So, good morning.
Autumn, would you like to go or would you like me to go?
Sure. My name is Autumn. I am the designer and illustrator for the Librarians with Spines series, and we are now working on a blog, and we're going to be featuring some of our authors, so be looking out for some emails. It's exciting times. We're trying to grow our community and be in touch. So yeah, welcome everyone.
And hi, my name is Yago Kira. I am a bilingual outreach librarian at the Los Angeles Public Library. I am very fortunate to be able to put together Librarians with Spines only with Autumn Anglin and Max Macias. And we're working on our 3rd volume, but you already know that because you're here. And today we're talking to Kymberly Keeton, and actually Grace Yamada is interviewing Kymberly Keeton, but they're both going to be talking to us and to each other. And it's really going to be great. And before, thanks Autumn for reminding me, my pronoun is he, him. And so thank you so much, Autumn. We really appreciate it. So without further ado, if it's okay, I'd love to just do a little intro so we're all keyed in to who these amazing people we're here to listen to are. So Kymberly Keeton is a native of Fort Worth, Texas. She's a graduate of the University of North Texas with a master's in library science. In 2014, Keeton began her professional career in academic librarianship at Lincoln University, HBCU, Historically Black College University, and accepted an appointment with the Austin History Center, Austin Public Library in August 2018 as the African American Community Archivist and Librarian. Independently, Keeton is the founder of Bookista Media Group, the African American Digital Art Library, and founder and curator of Art, Library Deco, and online African American digital art library. Keeton brings an entrepreneurial spirit to her work, a sense of love and community to her work as well. Let me also tell you about Grace Yamada. She's worked in various capacities in New York City Museum, including the MoMA, American Folk Art Museum, where she gained an appreciation for research, museum theory, and art education. During and after college, Grace explored the commercial art world, assisting and then managing Ultraviolet Studios, as well as freelancing as a project assistant and art dealer. Inspired by the librarians at NYU, she enrolled in the Palmer School of Library Science, renewing her interests in curatorship and research. While in her first year in the program, Grace began volunteering at the Mulberry Street branch of the New York Public Library, a gorgeous branch. Over the course of 2 years, Grace was steadily promoted until she became a senior young adult librarian upon graduation. Now she creates events and programming for ages 13 to 18 at NYPL and serves all demographics with reference, research, and technical issues. So yeah, thank you so much to both Grace and Kymberly. The best thing I can do now is just shut up and get out of the way. And so Grace, take it away. Or Kymberly, take it away. Both of you guys, take it away.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Grace.
Hi. Thanks, everyone, for coming. Thanks, Yago, for the introduction. If it's okay with you, Kymberly, I just have a few general questions, and I'm hoping that, you know, with your wealth of knowledge, you can just spin us off in the direction that you think is best. So My first question is about the Black COVID project. I don't necessarily want to ask about your inspiration because you've been really active in this realm of online community archives previously. So I'm wondering just like your journey from, you know, Art Library Deco and then this new project started in, you know, this horrible pandemic. So what can you tell us?
Uh, One thing I like to say that I think that is important right now, and I would hope that I bring to the profession as far as librarianship and archives. When I came to this profession, I was an entrepreneur. So that's something that's never left my spirit. And I didn't feel like that it was fair to myself to not be that person just because I decided to become a librarian. So with, let's just say, moving fast forward, I've been a librarian 4 or 5 years now. And looking at what I do independently from what I do on a daily basis, in both areas of my life, I believe that it was important that I took a stand as an advocate and as an activist for change, as far as creating um, a vehicle for change for people during this time of African and African American descent. I had the opportunity to be the first African American librarian in the state capital, Austin, Texas, to put together the Growing Your Roots African American Genealogy Conference. And that happened in February. And thank God, you know, like it's just amazing how things happen in life that we were able to make it through that. And then, lowly and behold, look at what has happened, like 2 or 3 weeks after that in March. So in February, it was interesting because I had heard, you know, about COVID-19, and I got a list. Somebody sent me a list by email, and this list already had repositories from all over the world where people could express themselves, you know, via art, images, text, etc. But on this list, there was nothing about Black people. So I was like, well, you know, you're an innovator. You know, that's what class they put you in as far as movers and shakers. So how are you going to tackle this? And also, I have a day job. Okay, so, you know, I'm the African American community archivist. I'm the Black archive when you come to Austin. And not to say that we're not doing what we need to do at the Austin History Center, but it's not something that is for everyone in the sense of it being global. So I think that, you know, in looking at myself and where I'm at in this pandemic, I felt that it was important as a writer, a librarian, an archivist that I developed something for my own community to know that it's being created out of love, it's being created out of care, that, you know, no one is going to sit here and tell you that your thoughts don't matter. You know, if you submit your work, you're going to be published in the repository. Now, there will be a process for the journal because we can't publish everybody's work. But I do want people to know that their work will be archived and that it's important that you document your history during this time. It's important that you not necessarily have something to say about, you know, let's just say in 20 years, you know, someone asks you, what did you do during the pandemic? My answer would be, you know, not necessarily about how it looked from a negative standpoint. I want to talk about what changed. So in my body of work that I've submitted to the index, that's how I'm looking at things. And I would hope that this index is a source, a resource, a tool for you just to be able to express who you are in any capacity, wherever you are, the continent of Africa, Asia. I mean, wherever you are, this is open for you to be able to express who you are during this time. And I want to add a little bit something to that. Like, you know, I think it's important that we also understand how important genealogy is right now. You know, we all have a little bit of lax time. And if you have that lax time, you know, and you're not watching TV, you know, log on to Ancestry, which is free right now, the library version for everyone in the United States to be able to research their history. And knowing your history, you walk differently. You know, you talk differently. You're able to have difficult conversations because you know what has happened in your own family, in your own history. So I just wanted to add that little piece to it, as it pertains to knowing more about yourself and your own lineage.
I think it's really interesting how you're kind of expanding the idea of an archive, which is generally something that we think about as a repository of the past, but you're really making it a contemporaneous community thing that's happening in the present. When you're making an archive, like for a specific community, how might that be different than, say, if I visited one of the archives at the New York Public Library that are very large and institutional, or yeah, how do you approach that differently?
Well, I mean, you know, I think a lot of what we do, honestly, this is going to go back to genealogy, this conversation today, because, you know, first of all, you have to be okay with who you are. And you have to be okay with saying that I'm Black, I'm African American without a hyphen, and that this is needed. And I'm not worried about what other people have to say. I'm not worried about their thought processes and how this is going to make them feel, because there are so many people feeling all different types of ways today. So, you know, looking at that radical approach of being who I am, and, you know, the people that make up my life and who I go to for advice. You know, one thing that is very important in what we do is language. So though this is created for African American people, it's worded as for people of color. However, when I do interviews, you know, whatever type of press that I've been given, I like to reiterate that this is for African American people. However, whatever hue you are, if you have something you want to share, share it. All libraries are free to walk in to. I'm not going to say archives. That's a totally different conversation right there. But libraries, anybody should be able to walk into a library and submit their history to that library and be able to archive that history, which is going to be a part of my PhD research, just to let you know. As far as the communal aspect of being able to share who you are at any given moment in time. And I just think that, you know, with what I've created, what was important was the language, you know, so people are not confused that, you know, well, kYmberly, she doesn't see anybody but Black people. No, I see everybody. I just happen to be African American. And I think that's a cool thing. And I'm not going to be deterred based off of other people's feelings, because I'm not saying feelings don't matter, but my feelings matter. You know, my community matters. And I think that's what we've been talking about all along with the Black Lives Matter movement, with just this racial upheaval that has happened, has taken place, which has been going on forever, but it's just at a boiling point. And I think more librarians in general should be radical in the sense of, you know, I need to contribute something, or I need to create something. I need to come outside of myself. And where does my identity lie within all of this? You know, are you a slave to the library, or are you a slave to the work? That's a totally different, that's two totally different thought processes going on, you know. And I think that we have the time right now to look at ourselves and see, you know, where we fit in the grand scheme of all of this, and what we're going to contribute, what we're going to develop and create, not just for 2020, but going forward.
I don't know if you ever hear this criticism, or if, you know, the room in general hears this, but sometimes people say to me that the library should be neutral, and that, you know, my displays are too political, or, you know, my pride lanyard is too in a patron's faces, and it erodes public trust in us as librarians and archivists to be neutral. What might be your response be to that?
I don't know what neutral means in the grand scheme of a library, because a library is about a community. So I necessarily can't sit here and say, I mean, I remember when I went to Orange County, California, and I probably saw like about 4 Black people in Orange County, but I saw 4 Black people. So that's just to say that your community wasn't like, quote unquote, all white as you said it would be. You know, so I haven't been anywhere in the world where I haven't seen people of color. So I don't even know what that means when you say be neutral, because if you come into the library and I'm at the reference desk, I'm going to be artsy. I'm going to have my glasses on. I'm going to have my cap on. I'm going to be Kimberly, you know, whatever that is. And if I'm being myself, then of course I would hope you're being yourself. Now, if you can't be yourself, then that's a problematic issue that you have to deal with, and you have time to deal with it in this moment. And you have to recognize that. But I don't think that it's fair that you walk into a space and think that the people that are behind the scenes that are doing the work, that are helping you, have to suppress who they are to make you feel better about yourself. And that's for any race. I don't think that that's fair, you know, and nor am I going to ask you to do that. And I would hope that you wouldn't ask me to do it. But if you want to have a conversation about it, we can. And hopefully when you walk away, I've given you, you know, some gems. You share some gems with me, and we both can, you know, meet each other where we are. But as far as a neutral world, like, what world is that? What world is that? What world is that? Like, if you go to a restaurant and you're with your sister and you're with your family, everybody's going to have something different at the table. And if y'all all have the same things, then I'm questioning your parents. Like what was the mode of how you raised your children? Like, they're all different. I'm a librarian, my brother's an architect, and my sister's a chef. So like, my mother saw all of, I have to give her credit, and she's no longer here, but that's the one thing that I do have to credit my mother for too, is that she allowed us to be who we are. And we went to white schools. Like, she wanted to make sure that, you know, certain things happened in our lives. However, you know, I don't know what neutral means. And especially in this new decade, you know, I think we all can think about that today when we get off when we get out of this meeting. You know, what does neutral mean in the next 10 years? I don't even think that should be in our vocabulary anymore.
Yeah, I think that's really true, that we should think about the next 10 years as well as like the past or the more recent past. So going a little bit back, when you were talking about creating the Black COVID Project, you were also talking about having roots as an entrepreneur, and you used the word creativity. I think that's really interesting. It can be, I don't know, difficult to feel like a creative person as a librarian, an archivist, or perhaps an educator, or I'm sure there's many things represented here. But what were ways that your creativity has helped you be a community archivist in the many capacities that you are?
Well, I think, you know, one thing I like to credit right now in this moment is Dr. Maria Gonzalez at the University of Houston, and also my mother again, because from the age of 8, I was creating these collages on the walls that my mother had to pay for in these apartment complexes, but she allowed me to do it. And then moving forth, you know, getting my education, first degree at the University of Houston. I have a degree in English creative writing. I'm a writer first before anything. And I just remember sitting down with Dr. Gonzalez, and I was just like, you know, I can do so many things, Dr. Gonzalez. Like, I can do so much. And she was like, it's okay to be all of those people. You know, and I think for myself and where I'm at today, I've accepted all of those entities within myself. So no one can ever pay me what I'm worth, number one. Number two, in knowing that, I don't feel intimidated by you because you can't pay me what I'm worth. And you have to really think about that in what I just said. Because in saying that, I'm still going to give you my best, regardless of what offer you give me. And if you don't give me an offer, I'm going to give you all of me in whatever project that I assemble, that I collaborate on with. And then I think, you know, it's another form of being a radical individual. Like, I decided that I wasn't going to separate. Well, I mean, it's separated, you know. I mean, of course, you know, it's politics. So when you read my bio, it says, you know, Kymberly Keeton is this person, but independently, she's also this person. And I don't want people to ever forget that about me. Like, I know who I am. And I think that's important today, to know who you are. And I'm just grateful and thankful for the people who have come before me, who've worked with me, mentors, friends, who've allowed me to be that person. But I think it's all about accepting who you are, accepting your skill set, and not allowing, you know, these are for new librarians. If you're on the phone, if you're in, you know, graduate school, about to enter into the profession. And one thing that I would like to share with you is that, you know, do not allow anyone to tell you what type of librarian you are, or archivist. You make that decision for yourself, because that's when it becomes problematic, regardless of what race you are, because someone is putting you in a box that they see you in, when you may see yourself being the president of a university in 10 years. You just started out in librarianship. So, you know, you have to be very aware of who you are and what you want out of this. You know, what is your legacy going to be? And I've thought about that, and I think about it every day, you know, and I pay a price. You know, this is not an easy world being in, you know, acknowledging your genius. It's okay to acknowledge your genius. It's okay. Everybody's not going to be okay with it, though, but it's okay.
Very true and inspiring words. Thank you. On that note, in a profession where, in the information profession in general, we can be really siloed, really cut off from each other. You know, even within an organization, like the person who does outreach doesn't necessarily know what the person who does technology literacy does, doesn't necessarily know what the children's librarian does, doesn't necessarily know their, you know, neighborhood archives or who those people are. And since you have such like a wide range of skills and interests, and you're active in all of them, like how can we make connections across those boundaries and like really be a whole community working together?
I think that's a good question. I kind of want to throw it back at you. I think, you know, I was discussing this with somebody the other day, because we get so caught up in, you know, I'm a manager and I'm a supervisor and I'm a director. Okay. But do you know your people, though? Because, see, if you can't tell me that I have 4 names, then you don't know me. You know nothing about me. My mother gave me 4 names. You know, and if you want to sit here and call me Kim, my name is Kymberly. My mother didn't name me Kim. My mother named me Kymberly. So that lets me know that you don't know me. And so I'm getting to a point here that, you know, we have to take the time to get to know these unique things about each other. You know, can you tell me one unique thing that you know about one of your colleagues in this moment? You can answer that if you want to. You don't have to. Like, you know, but that's where I'm getting to. Like, you know, we have to take the time to have retreats with each other outside of the library profession. Let's go hiking, you know, like let's do something as, you know, as a group, as a team, as they like to say. And that doesn't mean that you have to like everybody. That's another thing. Like, you don't have to like everybody, but you do have to be able to work with other people. And in doing that, knowing something about someone else is very important. But if I'm just coming to the table every day and I just know your first name, I don't need to know anything about your family. But if I just know that you like coffee cups, I'm gonna make sure every time I come into the room so we can get through this project, that I'm gonna have a fly coffee cup. You know, you gotta think like that these days. And you know, it helps you navigate through situations when you know something about someone else, you know, and it's not all about you. See, it's good. We're all rock stars. Everybody that's on this, we're all rock stars. Max, Autumn, Yago. I hope I'm saying your name right. If I didn't, please correct me. Almaton, Amelton, and Liberty. We're all rock stars. Grace, you're a rock star, but you got to know that within yourself. And if you don't know that within yourself, then I can't make that happen for you. And I think that's the issue. Like, you got to know that we're all rock stars in this microcosm, because if not, we wouldn't have the acronyms behind our names. We wouldn't have made it through the programs. But you got to know that about yourself and be able to look at someone else and say, that's a rock star too. And then I think, you know, in doing that, when you can acknowledge the brilliance in someone else, then it just makes life easier, I think. And, you know, just getting away from these titles, you know, it's no longer that I work for you. No, this is a partnership and it's at will, you know, but you got to be comfortable with that in your own life, you know, to say these things.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. For myself, I feel like since I've been working from home for almost 4 months now, it's definitely been a moment when I like think about, you know, who do I reach out to when I really get to choose? You know, like what are the people, you know, in my profession and other professions that I feel like, you know, oh, I've always wanted to do this project. So I did join the Asian American librarian group just a couple weeks ago. So I felt like that was exciting. So far, I just get emails, but you know, maybe something great will come of it. Who knows? But I think your point about confidence is really well taken. So
and it's not, you know, and I do want to say, Grace, that, you know, it's okay to be confident. It's okay, you know, because that, you know, confidence doesn't just come from your parents. You know, it's something you have to work with in life. And when you get to that point where you are a confident individual, you know, we are going to encounter those people who are not confident, but it is not my job to make you into a confident person. It's my job to be that example, you know, and I think we have to continue to be those examples and know that, you know, everybody's not going to like you. Everybody's not going to like your project. You know, we're not here to be, I just think that's important in what I'm saying. I need to say that, like, it's not important in regards to who likes you, because you should already have your people. You should already have your top 5 in your life. You know, you should already have that top 5 that you can go to outside of the profession. I think we get so caught up in librarianship, like our identities are just like embedded within those doors. But when you leave, what do you dismantle? What do you dismantle? You're just, I mean, that's all you have to think about is that? No, you're someone else outside of that. And I think that when you can look at all of it, then that makes you a better human being. That's when the humanist comes in.
That also makes me think about the way that librarians in particular are lionized and kind of given this hero narrative, which I think sometimes gets to our heads a little bit.
Yeah.
We're proposing the antidote to that, which is confidence and community, as opposed to feeling like, you know, a hero in your own story, disconnected.
Yeah, it's been, I mean, like, it's been moment by moment for me. Like, you know, please don't think that I haven't had my moments where I've cried, where I've, like, you know, I've had my moments. You know, this has been a very trying time However, I'm a Virgo, and we're cool with being by ourselves. You know, like, you're a Virgo? Are you a Virgo, Grace? Okay, so you know what it is. Like, you know, we okay with being in a room by ourselves all day, and I'm good that I haven't seen you for 2 weeks because I needed some time away from you. You know, I'm glad to see you. But you know, I think during this time that we have, and I truly believe we're not going to ever have a time like this again. Not our generation. We're not going to have a time like this again. And I'm quite sure it's different generations on this call right now. But we're not going to have this time again where you can sit and think for a while, like Lorraine Hansberry said. You know, it's okay to do that, to sit and think for a while. Like, I put that on one of my weekly tallies that I have to turn in. Oh, I just sat and thought for a while, like Lorraine Hansberry told me to do. And what do you have to say about that? Like, are you sitting thinking for a while? Because, I mean, it's going to make it better for me and you to be able to communicate with each other if you sat and thought for a while, you know? So, yeah, I think this is good. This is good, Grace. You're a good interviewer.
Well, I really only have one more prepared question, and then maybe we can get input from everyone else if you guys want. But to take you all the way back to Librarians with Spines, Volume 1, which is where I first read your work, I was just wondering if in this time of COVID and, you know, widespread shutdown, schools, libraries, are you thinking again about hip hop education and information literacy, kind of in this new milieu that we're living in now? And if so, you know, or maybe not, but.
Well, that's a good question. That's a good question because I've had a lot of people to reach out to me, universities asking if they could archive the Hip Hop LibGuide as a LibGuide in their LibGuide section. So that's been, you know, cool. First of all, I'd like to thank Librarians with Spines for reaching out to me to write creatively, which is really cool as a scholar, and to share the work that I created at Lincoln University, which was my first position as a librarian. And the reason why I did it was because I felt like that the institution was disconnected from the students, and understanding that this is a hip hop generation and we have to meet them where they are, just like you met me where I was, just like you met the other, you know. So one thing that I can say during this time, I've had the opportunity to go in and update a lot of things, add a lot of new hip hop artists, a lot of different conversations, check on the resources that are up, as well as like citations, if those entities are still using the same information that they were using 2 or 3 years ago, which has changed a little bit. So I've been able to go in and tweak it a little bit, but for the most part, it's going to stay the same, the format, because I started from the beginnings of hip hop and then just, you know, updating it quarterly, yearly with whatever is taking place. But I have documented what is taking place in the pandemic. And if you're interested in checking out the Hip Hop LibGuide, you can just go to bit.ly, bit.ly/Hip Hop Lib Guide. And I'm proud of the work. It was a saving grace for me at a point because I dealt with a lot in my first position. So in that moment, I had the opportunity to be creative and just share what I knew, as well as teaching hip hop information literacy, which was an experience. Do I think it's prevalent right now? Yes. I mean, just look at what happened to Nick Cannon yesterday. And, you know, I thought about that and thinking about hip hop. And I'm like, you know, it's so interesting that we take the time to go after people, but do you even know who Nick Cannon really is? Because Nick Cannon is a poet. But you got to know, like that question that you asked me before, you know, how can we come to a commonality with each other? You got to know who people are. And if you felt like that what he said was, you know, far reaching, did you watch the video that he put together about this pandemic, which is even far reaching, which you can look at that video in the apocalypse guide. So, you know, we have a little bit of controversy. We have a lot of resources, a lot of history, and I'm just glad that Librarians with Spines gave me a platform to be able to share it, because it was one of the major reasons why where it is today, as far as press, as far as people even knowing about it, is because of that article. And I'm so appreciative of that. And I'm so appreciative of my image, because it just like, yes, I loved it. Like, yes, I love that image. I do. Like, just amazing work, an amazing body of work.
Yeah, well, I totally agree. Thanks so much for, putting that together so I was able to read KYmberly's work. So that's kind of the end of my prepared questions. I don't know, Yago and Max, if you have anything to add, or anybody has anything else?
I just wanted to ask Kimberly, we were talking beforehand, before everyone got on the chat, about accessing information, and I just wanted maybe to give you the opportunity to speak a little bit about that now that everybody's in the room.
Well, I feel like, once this pandemic started happening, that, you go on your social media accounts, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, even Instagram, and what people were posting with images, like, I think it's important right now that we understand that people are actually reading a little bit of what you have to say. And that, as a responsible citizen, that you take the time to cite the information that you're posting, and if you don't know how to do that, reach out to your public library, because they should be online working with people, or take a free course on Coursera in regards to how to research information. I think information literacy is playing a major role in what we're doing today and what's taking place right now. And again, I want to reiterate, it's very important in how you're disseminating information and how you're providing that information to your social networks, and that it is your responsibility as a citizen, as a librarian, as whoever you are, to make sure that you're providing sources so people can go read what you're putting on your media platforms. God forbid you put up this, I don't even know how to pronounce the name of the medication that President Trump was taking, or, stated that he took. But I know I read an article a week ago where a 17-year-old was given that medication and she transitioned because of COVID-19, and thinking that this medication was going to, heal her body from a religious standpoint. So, I just think it's very important that the information that we're sharing, that you cite the information, that you come with some type of reference. And that's for anybody, Republican, Democrat, Independent, whatever you want to call yourself. Just be responsible about sharing information right now. And no, it's just always cool to have a librarian on your team. It's always cool to have a librarian on your team. I believe we all took an oath to share the truth. So if you come to my media platforms, you're going to get the truth, and you're going to get resources. Be cognizant of what you're sharing. I mean, well, I'm not going to get into all of that because it's a whole nother subject.
No, but you have a very good point, Kimberly and Grace. Yesterday I was on Facebook, and someone who lives in Georgia posted some supposed UN fact about the death rates, right from 1950 to 2020, and they were trying to make the argument that it's not really doing much more than the death rate usually does, which is categorically false. And so I was like, and it was really hard for me not to reprimand this person, right? From because, right? So I'm like, okay, hold up. So I wrote back very kindly, and I said, this is a platform for investors, and this particular data, it's a projection, number one, of UN data. Number two, it's being used on a platform for investors. So in terms of credibility, it really smells foul. And I just want you to know that, because I don't want you to, you know what I mean? Like, I want you to, and then I said very kindly, I was like, oh, and I'd love to read that article, because obviously as an information professional, I could take that time and tell them, look, we gotta vet these sources. We can't just put anything out there. I think you're totally right, Kimberly, Grace. You guys are totally on something right now. A lot of the times there's a disconnect between information professionals and the general public, because we just think everyone's an information professional, right? Because we're just around librarians a lot, right? And they have that acumen. But the reality is that kind of information and that kind of service is going to become very, very, very important. I hate to say it, but I kind of think we're losing the war in terms of information if we look at it, you know, because there are several threats and there are several people who have very nefarious means. And unfortunately, we have a populace that sometimes is more willing to believe than to ask questions. And I think maybe because we don't know all the answers as librarians, we don't. We just know what the good questions are. And so I think that's a really good starting point. And I think you make a very good point, Kimberly. And even our publication is something that, you know what I mean, like it takes a long, I mean, ask Autumn, like it takes a long time. We go through the sources, we gotta make sure, because, you know, it's not really a liability thing. It's just like a professional courtesy thing. Right. And so I completely agree with you. And I just wanted to say that man, I'm so digging this interview. I'm just gonna shut up because I want you guys. This is amazing. Thank you.
I mean, I can be honest and say I had a family member that came on my page when this first happened, and she challenged me. And I was like, well, I take challenges in my message inbox, but not on my, you know, we're not about to go tit for tat on my page. Like, you know, this is Kimberly Keeton. Like, my mother knows your mother. So let's go to the inbox and let's handle it there. And we got to the inbox. Of course, it was something totally different. And I'm 5 feet tall. So, you know, I'm here for it every day, all day. But
bluster is real.
You know, but please come on my page and be mannerable. And if you have a question, yes, I don't have a problem with answering your question, but be mindful of your question and ask a question. You know, if you're going to give me a statement, give a statement, but no, there may be, you know, something coming back behind that statement, you know. So I just think, you know, right now we just, you know, this whole communication thing going on, that we do become better communicators as librarians and archivists, as well as just knowing that it's important that you really think about what you're posting on your pages, in that if you're going to post information, which is your right as a citizen, just be a little bit, like he said, you know, it's a professional courtesy as a citizen to provide the source. So I can go look at your source, because these are not your opinions that you're sharing. They're their opinions and you agree with them, which is something totally different. So I would just hope that happens, you know, as 2020 goes along. That was interesting what he said, though, that we were losing the information war. That's something to think about this weekend.
Hey, this relates to digital citizenship. Hey, how do you think social media is impacting digital citizenship? And, you know, social media is a form of cognitive behavioral modification. And how do you think that's impacting digital citizenship, and then, you know, carry it out over into information literacy? I just read, and then back to Yago's point, I just read yesterday about those Twitter accounts getting hacked, and then the idea that somebody could pose as somebody else and say something like, hey, we just sent missiles to North Korea. And then what could happen there, right? It's just like it's totally related to digital citizenship. Do you have anything to say about that, Grace? And Kimberly, please.
I mean, I don't have a lot of original to say about that. I really recommend the work of, Ruha Benjamin. I'm gonna look up the title of her book, Race After Technology, from a couple years ago. it's really good. It's pretty short, not 200 pages. And oh, you have it. Nice. And it's really just a question of incentives. What are the incentives when we go to places like social media? Do they reward careful research, good citations, thoughtful discussion? And I think we all know that the answer is no. I've largely abstained from social media for the better part of the decade, but I don't know, Kimberly, if you've had, sounds like you kind of know how to manage those interactions, but I'm very pessimistic about the whole thing, so should maybe talk to someone with a more upbeat attitude.
I like your attitude, Grace. I'm like, you got one, I feel it. I think digital citizenship goes well beyond social media, though. You know, we all need to start thinking about, like I was saying, you're a rock star. Why don't you have your own media platform? Why don't you have your own blog to share your expertise, your opinions, so you don't have to go to social media? You know, like I have my own media platform, Creative Young Millionaire, which is KYM, my acronym. I think it's important that you have your own platform to be able to share and control your own narrative. And I think that's where the issue is lying in when it comes to digital citizenship, as well as, you know, this number that is lingering in society as it pertains to, you know, the reach of technology and those that don't have the digital divide, which plays a major part in digital citizenship. Because if you don't have technology in if you don't have it today, let's just say right now in this moment, you're lost. I'm not saying you're not going to get information word of mouth, but you're somewhat lost in a sense. And I think that's where the conversation really should be going. I think, you know, hackers are always going to be here. I'm a hacker. I'm not trying to hack you for your information, though. Like, it's just being able to manipulate databases, which librarians do. So if you're on this call, we're talking about manipulating databases right now, being able to get you more information that you want and need. But I believe there are always going to be hackers. You know, there's always going to be someone wanting to shift the narrative, because that's all that happened in Twitter, you know, is that the narrative shifted. And it's, you know, in the time that we're living in right now, I think people are being put on a pedestal. You're being shown who you really are, you know, and what you really stand for. And how safe is Twitter? How safe is Facebook? How safe is LinkedIn? You know, but as a librarian professional, as just, you know, a human being, it's up to me if I want to be a part of those mediums. And that's what people have forgotten. Like, you have the choice to delete your Facebook page today. Now, I'm not saying they're not gonna have your information, you know, archived, but you still have you have the opportunity to walk away from those entities if you choose, which plays, I think, a part in digital citizenship and us understanding the rights that we do have should we be supporting these entities, you know. But I think
Right.
we've all gotten kind of caught up in it, you know.
Right. Digital citizenship is the tool that we use to kind of push back on, right, you know, whoever is controlling the narrative this week. But, you know, I asked you the question about, you know, rethinking hip hop ed during the pandemic, because I was doing the same thing with my digital citizenship chapter. And I don't know if I totally got it right. I think that the digital citizenship only exists as much as access does, like you said, the digital divide. So maybe instead of thinking so much about, I was thinking specifically about teaching kids, and the ways that we can have this framework for teaching people how to interface with the internet, which these days happens starting from like age 0. But maybe what we really should be thinking about is getting everyone equal access. And then perhaps working as a larger community, it's not so much about hitting the pedagogy. But I was just thinking about it.
No, I think what you're saying is exact and right. And I think you got to think about technology differently. It's a tool. It's like a car. It's getting to that point. Like you're gonna have to have a computer. You're gonna have to have internet access. I'm all for it being a utility now, so people can get away from. I can't answer my phone. Like how do we ever get to a society where we don't even answer our phones and you're sitting here watching someone call you? Like I can understand if you don't want to talk to them. I'm not saying but I'm talking about like you actually are sitting here watching people connect with you and you don't so what are you actually using this for? And I think that's where we are. This pandemic has shown up the world that we have a lot of people who know how to work a phone, but you don't know how to work technology, which has a lot to do with digital citizenship. You can have an Apple phone, but you don't know how to work a Zoom call. That says a lot to me. Like we need to be doing some webinars, Max, seriously, on how to access, how to use these different tools online. Zoom is not going to help you live. They have some tutorials for you though, but not live. So that's why I say it's always good to have a librarian on your team. Always marry one. Have a boyfriend, you can break up with him, but at least you can tell the world I had a librarian on my team for a brief second. It's the best profession in the world, like I tell people we're the smartest people on earth. I don't care what nobody got to say. Which, but yeah, I think that was a good point, digital citizenship, and just, everybody needs access. And America has been shown itself today, which is very daunting. And where are we going to go with that? Where are we going to go in 2021? Are we going to be at the same stage? Are the same children not going to have the same type of access that they didn't have in 2020? Are things going to change? That's what Dr. King talked about. He talked about change. And, little spurts have happened, over that time, but we're still at the same point.
Yeah, can we open it up to some questions for the audience if we got a little bit of time left here? Is that okay?
Mm-hmm. I'm almost done with my coffee.
Audience, feel free to unmute yourselves in an orderly manner and go for it. Ask some questions, please.
I can handle it, whatever you come with. Maybe.
Hello. Can I be heard? This is Vanessa Reyes from this USF School of Information. It's very nice to meet you, Mr. Max, Kimberly, Gracie. I appreciate this, and Autumn. What a great presentation. I think this is something that we need to talk more about. Actually, we're planning a course on digital citizenship sometime either, and we're collaborating to team teach the course. And I just want to thank you for bringing these issues up and discussing them, because students really need to know this. And if they're going to be put out there in the field, they need to have this experience right now in the classroom. So thank you very much for doing this. And I hope that you continue to speak about these things and have more of these ongoing sessions, especially in these times that we're living in right now. So thank you very much.
Well, I have a question. What kind of aspects of anti-racist technology training do you think that we as librarians could be giving our patrons? As you mentioned Ruha Benjamin earlier, and there's been some really good work that I've been exposed to recently that I've been imparting to people. And what do you think? What do you think about that kind of stuff? What role can librarians play in that?
Yeah, I really think it comes back to technology history and understanding the ways, well, it's kind of two parts, understanding the ways that technology was created for the surveillance of people of color, Black people in particular, going all the way back to early map making. So if we can teach an abolitionist history of technology, that's going to give people a different way, a different perspective to see how new things are coming down the pipe and like whether we like an aspect of them or we're critical of a different part. I don't really think there's a one size fits all, but definitely in my work with kids, I just try to teach the real history and just give them the tools to think critically about, the technology presents itself this way, or how much of this is, marketing or buzzwords. Do you have the technical ability to understand some of the language? When we talk about indexing or an algorithm, do you know what those words mean, or can you be bamboozled? Like it's about teaching. Well, I work with kids, so I think about kids, but I think the same goes for all demographics. Well, I used to work with kids. I don't know if I work with kids anymore. But the idea that if you can make things less intimidating and give people like a firmer grip on what these words actually mean, and you don't have to be afraid of the ones and zeros, and no one can like front to you about, you don't understand this, so you don't get to have an opinion about that. I think as librarians in particular, that's what we can do. I work with the public, so I spend a lot of time with people who really don't have any computer skills. And it's all just about taking the intimidation down. This is the mouse, it moves the cursor. The cursor lets you choose between the programs. The programs have run on these technologies. So if you're seeing this error message, this is what it is. So I just really try to weave that into my everyday practice and, never walk away from a technology interaction without like telling a little bit of the true history.
I agree with Grace. And I also think I'm going to use this analogy real quick. I had a conversation with someone about them going to the University of Texas at Austin and working on their PhD. And so he told me, he said, he was kind of intimidated, as an African-American male going into a program and probably one or two of color in that program, and the vocabulary that would be used. And so his mentor told him, he said, well, I wouldn't, worry about the vocabulary. What I would think about and want you to do is to show up. So I think in what Grace says, just encouraging those patrons to continue to show up, because we start out in January. By June, you're going to be talking different. You're going to be able to move your cursor to the left side of the screen. You're going to be able to, go to the thesaurus.com and look up whatever words you want to look up. And if you need my help, we're right here with you. I think encouraging particular demographics and understanding and knowing that who you're working with in particular is not intimidating. Like, we want to help you. We want to meet you where you are. And I always like to say that, though I'm the professional, I still like to walk away learning something from my patrons, because I don't know everything. I may know what area you live in, but I may know nothing about the community. And just me listening to you and helping you with technology, I could get a history lesson that day. So, I think it goes, hand in hand. And I think that's the beauty of what we do on a daily basis. So I wanted to add that.
we are at 10 o'clock, so the time is up, but I want to respect Grace and Kimberly's time. But I'll be happy to stay here for longer if people want to continue talking. I don't know what your framework is, but thank you so much. This has been great. We're recording this.
Yeah.
We're going to put it up on our Librarians with Spines YouTube channel. Should be up in a day or so.
Well, thank you, everyone, for inviting me. I really enjoyed my time with you all. And I am zoomed out, so I am going to zoom on out of here. And I would just hope and pray that you take care of yourselves, that you have a blessed remainder of this summer, which goes through September. Love yourself, eat well, exercise, read some books, and love yourself some more.
Thank you. This has been really awesome. Thanks to the presenters and Max and Autumn and Iago for organizing. This is great.
Thank you, Grace. Thank you, Kimberly. We're going to
Thank
end it now then. Take
all.
care, all. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.